Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about how to solve systems of inequalities. There's only one method we can use to solve systems of inequalities, and that method is graphing. So let's go ahead and start graphing. The first one has a y-intercept of 2, so we're going to graph that, and then it has a slope of 1/2, so we're going to go up 1 and over 2 until we get all of our points put in, and then we can draw in our line. All right, now this one's not quite ready to graph, so we need to rearrange it. Get y by itself. So we're going to add the 9x to both sides. And then we can divide everything by 3. And we're left with y is greater than 3x minus 3. So now we can go ahead and graph this line. So y-intercept of -3 and a slope of 3. And then we can draw on our line. All right, now we have to do our shading. So when we shade the red line, okay, the red line was everything that was less than this. So that means we have to shade down. Whoops, wrong one. And just shade down. All right, so everything below the red line. Now the blue line was greater than. So we want to shade everything above the blue. So when we go to solve the system, what we really want is just the area that they intersect, where that shading intersects. So I can erase all of this shading up here, and I can erase all of this shading down here. And I only want the one section where they intersect. So just this section right here. So all my solutions to the inequality are going to fall in here. All right, so now I want you to go ahead and try this one here on your own. You will need to rearrange both those equations first. Go ahead and pause your video now. All right, now let's come down here and take a look at this one here. So for example 2, here we have a graph all ready for us. We have to create the system of two inequalities that could be represented by this graph. So first thing I look at is my equations. So we're going to notice that these three are all the same. Okay, those three are all the same. And then we're going to notice that these three are all the same, with the exception, of course, of the inequality symbol. Now I don't really like my y to the right. I'd prefer it to the left. So I'm going to flip that around and see how it's open to the y. I want it to stay open to the y. And I'm going to do that on each of these. All right, now my slope on these three are negative. That means it's going to be this one here. And it's a dashed line. So that means I can eliminate this one here. So right away, I know it can't be this one because it has to be a dashed line. All right, so now we just have to look at these two. So looking at my shading, from this line, everything is down. So it's below that line. So that means it's going to be the less than one. So now we've got that one figured out. Now let's take a look at this one here. Has to come from one of these. It's a solid line, so it has to be one of these two. That means I can cross this off, eliminate this one. And now we notice that this is shaded above that line. So that means it has to be the greater than. Now we can just write our two answers over here. Okay. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's another one just like it, and I'll have you go back and do that one on your own once we get through the rest of the notes. All right, so now here are some other types of examples that we might see. So here they want to know which shading is going to be the best. So here we have a system, okay? And you're going to notice that each time it's the same two equations, except for this first one here has already been rearranged. All right, so when we look at these, all right, we're going to first figure out which line is which. So a y-intercept of -3. All right, well, that's this one here. So that means the bottom equation is this one here. All right, so when we look at this, this one is shaded up, so regions 1 and 2. This one is less than, shaded down, regions 2 and 3. Well, the one that they had in common then was region 2. So 2 is where they belong. Okay. Let's come over and do this one here. Now, these are also ones that you can do on your calculator. Okay. This one, first though, we have to rearrange. So I would add x to both sides. And once I've done that, rearranges to be y is greater than negative x plus 1. And you're going to notice it's the same as this one, just with a different inequality symbol. All right, so this one was this line here, so everything is greater than, so region 1 and 2. This one is also everything greater than, so region 1 and 4. So we're looking at the overlap. They both had region 1 in common. Okay. So 1 is where the shading should be. When you get to class next time, you're going to have the calculator instructions, which will help you identify where that shading should be. So you'll be able to utilize your calculator for this. All right, and I can even show you that right now. Hold on one second. Okay, so to do these in the calculator, my calculator is slightly different. But just like we did before, we're going to make sure our Inequalities app is turned on. Okay, and then you're going to go up and you're going to clear out anything that's in there. All right, so like I said, mine's slightly different. Oh, now they're showing up. Okay, so to get that symbol there, I want the less than or equal to, so I'm going to do alpha zoom. And then to come down here, I want also less than or equal to, so alpha zoom. And then I can go in and type those in. So remember, we can't do the actual alpha y equals for the fraction, so we have to type the fraction as a division problem. So this is what you will be able to do in your calculator at school next class. Okay. And then we graph, and it's going to graph the two lines. So this time we can see, what did I do wrong? We said region 2, didn't we? Well, that's not what's showing up. Let's make sure I typed them in right. Less than or equal to 1/3 x minus 3, negative x plus 1. I typed them in right. What did I do? Less than, and less than, oh, I just looked at that wrong. Okay, so that's not 2. That should actually be a 3. I made the mistake. Alright, so that should actually be 3. So when we look at the graph, we can see here where the overlap is. The other thing we can do is we want to do the shade. So I'm going to do alpha y equals, and I'm going to select 1, the intersection. And what it'll do is it'll show us exactly where we want it to be shaded. So that would be section 3. And then you can also check that for this one here. And when you go to try on your own, you can try these at home using Desmos, or you can wait till you get to class and do these with the graphing calculator. All right, so let's move on. All right, now, determining which order pairs are solutions to the system of inequalities. So there will be more than one correct answer. What we do is we take each of these order pairs and we substitute them into both equations. Now I set up my workspace here to break up my work. So I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to substitute in my two ordered pairs. Okay, so the negative 3 goes in for x, or for y, and negative 4 goes in for x. I work out the right side, and we check to see, is this true? Is negative 3 greater than or equal to negative 11? It is, so we'd say this is a solution. Oh, no, hold on, not yet. Before we do, we have to check to make sure it works in the bottom one. So then I substitute again, work out this side, and we check, is negative 3 less than or equal to 1? It is, so since it worked for both, that is a solution. All right, let's check this one here. So again, we're going to check these two. Substitute in negative 3 and 0. Work it out. Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 8? It is. Let's do this one. Substitute negative 3 and 0. Work out the problem. Is 0 less than or equal to 0? It's equal to 0, so it works. Okay, so this one's also a solution. All right, let's do one more together, and then the rest will become try on your own. Substitute in the negative 1 and the negative 5, work it out, and then we check. is -5 greater than or equal to 4? It's not. So automatically we can say this is not a solution, but we're just going to go through and check down here anyways. All right, so now we have that. We're going to substitute the -1 and -5 in. Whoops. And then do the math. -5 is less than -2, so that one worked, but it didn't work up top. So since it didn't work here, not a solution. All right, your try on your owns are to complete the next 3. All right, let's come down here, and we're going to graph a solution to this system of inequalities. So first, we have to rearrange. I have to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract the 3x to the other side. This one, I'm going to have to get y by itself, so I'm going to bring the x over and then divide by 2. And then we can graph them. So we have got y is greater than or equal to -3x minus 3. So I'm going to graph each of these points and put my line in. All right, then we can graph this one here, a -1/2. Okay. All right, and then we can do our shading. So again, we can use our calculator if we want to. So we can go back to our y equals if we want to check to see where our shading should be. So this time I need the greater than or equal to. So I'm going to do alpha graph, and then I'm going to do alpha window for the second one. All right, so now I've got -3x minus 3, and then I've got -1/2 x plus 2. We can graph, and so we can see that I'm going to have shading here as my solution. So if we did the alpha y equals, selected 1, we can see this is where our solution should be. Okay. All right, this one here is going to be very similar to what you did up here. So I'm going to have this be a try on your own. All right, word problems. There's 3 word problems. I'm going to do the first one with you. The last 2 will be try on your own. All right, so all we have to do is write out the 2 inequalities. So you can work at most 20 hours next week. You need to earn at least $92 to cover your weekly expenses. Your dog walking job pays $7.50 per hour, and your job as a car attendant pays $6 per hour. Write a system of linear inequalities to model a situation. All right, well, first we need to pick variables. So I'm going to pick x and y. I'm going to let x equal the number of hours I spend dog walking, and I'm going to let y equal the number of hours spent as a car wash attendant. All right, so my total number of hours is just going to take adding up the number of hours spent dog walking to the number of hours spent as a car wash attendant. All right, at most, remember, means less than or equal to. For this one, okay, now at least $92, at least means greater than or equal to. So my inequality is going to look like this: $7.50 per hour, $7.50 per hour, plus $6 per hour. It's greater than or equal to 92. All right, that brings us to the end of the notes. The last 2 are on your own. Please go back and make sure you've completed all of your try on your own, and I'll see you in class next time.